Nash?
Friends, we have a critical job ahead of us to create a strong, stable economy with good social programs and good environmental policy. And in fact, they're just one and the same. You can't have a situation where 30% of the new wealth flows into the pockets of the top 1% and claim to be a good fiscal manager. You can't create a stable economy based on environmental degradation. You can't spend our money on prisons when our children need health care and education. It's time to show Canadians that we can lead this country to real economic prosperity that includes all Canadians. I've negotiated with some of our largest companies, and bridging the gap between business and people and combining their interests is my life's work. We are this country's best hope for a strong fiscal future, an equitable society, and an environmental sustainability. And under my leadership, I'll make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. The question comes to us from Susan Brooks-Frank in Oshawa, Ontario. The NDP has a strong track record of financial success in provincial government. How can we both highlight that record and apply it to success in the federal government?
Thank you. My approach is to combine our economic policy, our social policy, and our environmental policy because they're all closely linked. Stephen Harper's approach is just to let the markets do whatever they want, get government out of the way. Clearly, that is a failed policy. My approach will be to get government, business, labor, and communities working together to create good quality jobs. We need to restore our manufacturing sector. We need to ensure we're not just shipping raw materials out of this country, raw logs, raw materials of all various kinds. We need to process here so that we're creating good quality jobs, we have innovative technology, and people have a decent standard of living. Clearly, Stephen Harper doesn't know how to do that. Under my leadership with an NDP government, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Hello, my name is Paul Bretcher. I'm originally from Saskatchewan and currently living in Toronto. My question is, what would you do as Prime Minister to bridge the urban-rural divide in Canada? Thank you.
Ms. Nash, please go ahead.
Well, Paul, what I would do is ensure that we're not artificially dividing people. We've seen with Stephen Harper his divisive approach that pits urban and rural people against each other and creates those divisions. What my history is one of bringing people together, of listening to all sides so that we can find concrete solutions. Food security is fundamental to our country. I'll certainly initiate that in my discussions across the country.
You now have 3 minutes to debate among yourselves.
You know, I think that the divisiveness that this government, the current Stephen Harper government, has created he's trying to poison the dialogue in this country. I think that rural Canadians and urban Canadians have common cause to make when it comes to food security, protecting things like the wheat board that Nikki did such a great job in leading our struggle on, and ensuring that we have good quality jobs both in our cities and in our urban environments. But our farmers are our best environmental stewards if we respect the work that they do in nourishing our country. And I think we can bridge that dialogue with urban and rural Canadians if we have a process that unites Canadians and gets us all moving forward in the same direction instead of focusing on divisions. I just want to raise one last issue. You know, we've seen with the long gun registry how this government has divided people. Jack Layton brought people together with a 10-point program to have a long gun registry that could be acceptable to all Canadians. I'd make sure that that becomes the law. Thank you.
Now, moving right into the rapid-fire portion of the debate, I'll ask each candidate a question. They'll have 15 seconds for a response. This is called rapid-fire, so I assure you we'll be moving very quickly. Our first question is from Brad Reamsbottom in Lethbridge, Alberta. In what future industry or business sector do you foresee Canada playing a leadership role? Thank you. Ms. Nash.
Well, we need to green our economy. There's huge potential that other countries have realized in investing in green technology, building the products that we need to make that adaptation in our economy. And that's what Canada is going to do under my leadership.
Our next question is from Janet Hudgens in Vancouver, British Columbia. She writes, the NDP has called many times in the past for a national housing strategy. As the next leader of the NDP, will you retable this bill? Further, what strategy will you employ to ensure this bill is adopted by the House of Commons? Ms. Nash.
Well, you know, since the Liberals cancelled the national housing strategy in the 1990s, we've seen inequality skyrocket. We need to invest in housing to ensure everyone is properly housed. Imagine the number of good jobs we could create putting a good roof over everybody's head.
Thank you. Our final rapid-fire question is from Ron Woodman in Mount Pearl, Newfoundland and Labrador. He writes, in the national narrative of jobs, I hear very little about rural economies. What will you do to ensure that provinces with large rural areas, such as Newfoundland and Labrador, aren't being left out of the discussion? Nash.
Well, here's a good example. When you just leave things up to the marketplace, you fail to create the necessary jobs. What we need to do is have government work with our small communities to make sure that small and medium businesses are thriving and that we're creating good quality resource processing
Thank you,
jobs.
Mr. Chisholm.
I'd like to talk to us about, some of your thoughts about how we conciliate an industrial economy with the requirement to address the environment.
Well, you know, I've in fact received 2 awards from the Sierra Club of Canada for exactly my work on the issue of transportation policy. We're a large country with vast geography, and we need to make sure that we are investing in cutting-edge technology. When it comes to our transportation, we need to have a national transit strategy to make sure our cities are functioning well. That's great for the economy, but also rail and interurban transit as well, and that's a priority. Well, thank you for that and for your work on trade. I guess part of my concern is that trade is another example where government just takes a hands-off approach and leaves companies to do whatever they want. And what we need is a government that actively intervenes for the benefit of Canadians, that ensures trade agreements protect our environment and that we're not subsidizing trade on poor environmental conditions in other countries. We need a government that actually defends Canadians.